Preppers, how's it going? Rich with Prep You down here at the bunker. As I do many times every day, I go on the internet and I kind of peruse and look at different websites. And here's a website that I've talked about many times. It's called Ask a Prepper. I've suggested in many of my videos that you go and you sign up to receive their articles, go to their website, check out all past articles that they've written. It's a really super site. As a matter of fact, that's what this video is about. And the name of this video is 11 things you believe about EMPs and Faraday cages that are actually wrong. I'm gonna give you some highlights out of this article, but what I really want you to do is go to the askaprepper.com. And it was an article dated 12/17/21. The author is Rich M. Rich M does a lot of their articles, a lot of their research. Really good writer. I implore you to go to Ask a Prepper. That's kind of why I took a picture of the front page of the article that I printed and put that as my thumbnail so you can see exactly where this was from, because I did not write the article. He did 90% of the 100% of the research. I did do some fact checking on it. He's spot on. Everything he said in here makes a lot of sense. A lot of stuff is backed up by information that I found over the last couple of days, because I don't want to just regurgitate news. I don't want to be like the modern news media and just regurgitate one thing. So let's get into this. I don't want to waste your time, but I wanted to make sure you know that who this article was from, Rich M, from where, askaprepper.com, and that I have pretty much verified everything in here. Some stuff I can't find information on, and he actually says that in here, that there isn't a lot of information out there. So let's talk about this. What are the 11 things you believe about EMPs and Faraday cages that are actually wrong? Basically, he goes into the fact that we've actually known about EMPs since the Manhattan Project in World War II. Scientists working on that project measured it as a part of the testing of the first atomic bomb. But at that time, EMPs were of little concern because the electronics of the day were both too primitive and too robust to be affected. Which is very interesting. And then they didn't check it again till the Starfish Prime test in 1962, where they were still kind of surprised that some of the electronics in the 60s didn't have any problem with it. He stated there's been little further testing of EMPs by nuclear explosion, although there are facilities which regularly perform EMP testing. So while actual test results are still limited, they are not unknown, and that's what he's going to go into. And let's talk about them. EMPs will stop all cars with computers in them. Well, will they? That's what we were all told, right? But actually, cars are one of those things that are tested by the EMP Commission. They used a variety of automobiles, mostly belonging to the people working as part of the commission. Bad time to work for the commission, you would think, right? Of over 50 vehicles tested, only 3 stalled, and all of those restarted, which is very interesting, but he says that's not to say that our cars will necessarily be usable. While the cars might still work, we're going to quickly run out of gasoline. And why are we going to run out of gasoline? Well, gasoline is underground or in pumps, and the power's out, and you can't do that. So one of the key things he says, and I've told you about this, to carry in your car is a pump, a way to pump fuel from underground into containers or into your vehicle. So your cars may work, but you're going to have to find some way to get fuel for them. EMPs will fry all computers. There are 2 different ways EMPs will fry electronics, either by direct absorption of the E1 and E2 pulse, or by massive surges in our power lines caused by the E3 pulse. For computers connected and in operation, both of these are serious risks. But most of us have computers sitting in the closet or basement that aren't connected, or laptops just sitting there, older models that aren't in use. Those will probably survive because they're not hooked into the power grid. Not only will they not have the connecting wires that will allow any of these pulses to reach the circuitry inside, but the case itself makes a pretty good Faraday cage. So we've all downsized from our, our big bulky computer that we had at our desk over all the years, and we've gone smaller and smaller and smaller. It's interesting to find out that the case makes a pretty good Faraday cage, which we'll talk about later. The big thing is you'll have to get some running power. That's why you need generators. That's why you need extra fuel just to produce your own electricity. All right, EMP will stop our cell phones from working. Surprisingly, cell phones will probably continue to work, although you won't be able to call anyone on them because the network will be down. Antennas will be fried, the circuitry in the antennas, but they won't work at all. But that doesn't mean your cell phone still won't be useful. We all have a number of offline apps we use which are installed on our phone. Those will probably still work because the phones are small enough that they won't absorb much of the EMP. On the other hand, if the phone is connected for charging, that wire might just be enough of an antenna to absorb the EMP necessary to fry the phone. Well, there you go. So if you can, hook it up to a cellular or a solar charger or a brick. Charge your brick. Make sure your brick or your charging block is set, and charge your phone from there. Also, like we always say, be aware of your surroundings. There'll probably be some notification if somebody's really, really ticked off at us and wants to do this. EMP will stop all electronic communication. One of the things that is protected from EMP is our nation's communication. The automatic phone switchboards, which are the heart of the system, are required by FCC regulations to be in a building that is shielded from an EMP. They are also required to have backup generators with tanks of fuel. The question comes, he says, is will those generators start? And if those generators do start, how much fuel will they have to, keep running to keep the switchboards open? Again, he says their fuel supplies will eventually run out, but there will be communications for a few days so you can at least make contact with family and friends. That's if, you have a house phone and you can still use it and the antennas aren't wasted. EMPs will destroy all electronic and electronic devices. He says here, this is probably the biggest lie going. EMPs will destroy any and all solid-state electronics, especially if they are connected to antennas, other cables, or your home power. But that doesn't mean that it will destroy everything. All right, so when the first atomic bombs were tested, it didn't destroy a thing. That's pretty interesting. Pretty much anything electronic which was built before 1970 will still work. I know what you're saying. Most of you weren't even born before 1970, but hey. Will still work, especially appliances and tube-type radios. It's the newer stuff that's going to have a problem. Boy, really good time to think about the TV show American Preppers, where they go to all these places that guys collect all that stuff, and they find out all that stuff still works. Huh? Although, who's going to be broadcasting if their antennas are fried? Another thing is to consider the antenna effect that I mentioned earlier. Electronics which are not connected to anything, especially small electronics, are likely to survive. And remember, another thing to remember, there are warehouses scattered across the country which contain electronic devices boxed up and waiting for delivery to retailers or to consumers. The question is, how full are those warehouses today, since we haven't had the manpower to make new stuff and people are still buying? But most of those warehouses are metal buildings, which make them near perfect Faraday cages. All right. EMPs will cause airplanes to fall out of the sky. They have other problems, but they won't fall out of the sky. And researching this was very interesting. Airplanes are one of the few things manufactured today which are tested for EMP resilience as part of their design process. Lightning strikes on airplanes are actually much more common than people realize, but like an EMP, the electricity from the lightning just works its way around the surface of the airplane and then continues on toward the ground. And we have all seen those pictures, those amazing pictures of airplanes in the sky with the lightning bolt at the top of it, the lightning bolt at the bottom, and it looks like it's just going right through the plane. In actuality, it's going around the plane. You know, so so pilots will most likely be able to land those planes because they're highly trained. Any damage to planes will probably be planes that are on the ground, so they won't be usable. That's not to say the commercial airlines won't have some serious problems to deal with. Air traffic control systems will be down. As he says, and I didn't find it either, unless they're EMP shielded, but there's no information about if air traffic systems are EMP shielded by code or anything like that. And don't forget, probably won't be able to use the radio. They won't be able to use navigational aids like ADFs, and the runway lights will be down. So hopefully you're flying during the day and they can get that down, or hopefully the airport you're flying into has sufficient backup that the generators work and they can at least get the runway lights going. Your pilots are highly trained. There's not really going to be that. As long as they can see, they can land that baby. All right, EMPs will bring down all utilities. Another area that is required by regulation to have generator backups is water treatment plants. So while the electrical grid is one thing most likely to be destroyed by an EMP, water and sewer will stay on for a few days at least until they run out of power. Fuel, natural gas, or whatever. Speaking of natural gas producers produce their own electricities from massive generators run by engines that burn natural gas. Makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Yeah. It's questionable whether they will be operational after an EMP or not. He says, and so do I agree with, some will, some won't. You don't know. You don't know how they're impacted, or are they directly over where the EMP originated. He says he hasn't found any information that such plans are in place or how they would implement them. Oh, wait. Sorry, let me back up. It will depend on whether the generators and controls are inside metal buildings or not. Okay, so let me back up. So it all depends on those generators, how they're shielded, what kind of controls they have, and are they inside buildings or not. Then he talks about petroleum companies, and I didn't find very much about anything about petroleum companies and EMPs. But even if the utilities, even if the utilities do survive, you don't expect the petroleum companies to keep producing very long, although they will have some in stock in giant containers. They'll have some in trucks. The trucks should run until because they run on natural gas. Hopefully they'll start. But you don't know for how long, and if they can't produce more from the oil, we're going to run out eventually. EMPs will destroy solar panels. One of the surprising things to survive EMPs is also one of the most exposed, and that's solar panels. All right. Solar panels will receive some damage from exposure to EMPs, but they will still retain 80 to 90% of their power production. And I read this too, considering that solar panels are built with the assumption that they will never be operating at 100% efficiency, they should still produce enough power to be useful. Now, we also have to remember when you look at solar power panels, they're connected in series. So even if it gets down to, say, 20%, you still have panel after panel after panel of 20%. So it is going to produce power for you as long as you have sunshine. All right. And Faraday cages must be solid, uninterrupted metal. Let me read these two paragraphs because I was actually really shocked about this. I thought the same thing. It had to be, in a metal can then you put insulation like cardboard in it, then you can put your electronics in it, then you put the cover on top of it to totally protect your electronics. But here you go. And like I said, I was shocked. There are a lot of false ideas about how to build a Faraday cage. To understand this correctly, we must understand how the case works. That is, it serves as a conductor for the EMP, attracting it like radio waves and allowing the EMP to flow across the surface, Once the EMP arrives at the other site, it will continue to travel into the ground. Here's the thing though, radio waves don't need a solid metal surface to interrupt them. Take a look at a power pole with the wires strung on it. To radio waves, those 3 wires may as well be a solid wall. They can go over it, they can go under it, but they can't go through it. So making a Faraday cage out of a metal poultry cloth is just as effective as making it out of a galvanized trash can. And when I first read that, I thought, no, that can't be true, but it is. Testing has proven that the mesh will bring it down and around. But remember, when you build it, you want to have some insulating factor between that metal, whether it's a galvanized metal can or chicken wire. You want to have something in between, either insulation, cardboard, something, newspaper, something that's going to shield everything on the inside when the pulse goes around the outside of your cage. An EMP will render their military ineffective. Well, there's a lot of speculation about this, and obviously military personnel, for many, many reasons, don't want anyone to know what their EMP protection is, but let's face it. I mean, the military has a really good reason for protecting its equipment and its personnel against such an attack. If there's any part of the government which takes EMPs seriously, it's the military. Military aircraft designs are all tested for EMP resilience, the same for military vehicles and weapons system. The Air Force has reopened Cheyenne Mountain. I did not know that. I checked. Yes, they did. Bringing the systems installed there up to date because the facility is EMP proof. To top all of that, our military forces are scattered around the globe. Even in a worst case scenario where an EMP took out some of our forces, we have many more forces and probably still have the largest military in the world around the rest of the world. So you've got, that going for you. I don't think we really have to worry about the military and EMP. I think they've got their proverbial shit together on that one. A nuclear explosion causing an EMP will be invisible. I didn't even think about that. I didn't think that it would be invisible. I did see some articles in research, older articles talking about you wouldn't see it. It would just happen. You guys, everything would just die. You wouldn't know. This is what Rich M found out. Same thing, some of the research I did. While post-apocalyptic fiction always has the EMP take place with total invisibility, that's not necessarily how things will go down if we are attacked by an EMP. A lot depends on what time of the day it takes place and what the cloud cover is like. But assuming the attack is during low light, we should see something along the lines of the Northern Lights. While most people won't recognize that for what it is, if it happens and the power goes out, it will most likely be an EMP. So there you go. 11 things that you didn't know or that people have told you about an EMP that isn't true. Very interesting article. Rich M wrote the article. He's one of the lead writers on askaprepper.com. Please go to askaprepper.com. Please sign up for their emails. Just a boatload of information from that website. So that's it. I hope you guys take a look at this video several times. Shoot me a comment if you like it. Subscribers, thank you very much. Pass this on to friends of yours that are totally into this. This is really cool stuff. It's even cooler than stockpiling food and doing things like that. I love the whole, EMP and attacks and stuff like that kind of things. Not that I want it to happen, obviously. But that is it. Hey, if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. Don't forget, we've got over 200 videos on our website. We have plenty of playlists that you can fine-tune the videos you want to see. And that's about it. So as we always say, please always be aware of your surroundings, no matter where you are, what you're doing, time of day, time of year, and all that. Please have at least 72 hours of bug-out food ready, separate from your shelter-in-place food, which you should have at least 3 months of food per person available and put in a dry, cool place to keep it going. And please, prep like your life depends on it, because it really does. Thanks a lot. Take care. See you next time.